Well, you can't beat that for a view, can you? It's just gone 6 in the morning. I woke up, you see how calm this sea is now? I woke up with this calmness. I mean, I sleep outside on a bench. A couple of sleeping bags. Yeah, my gloves. Got a blanket wrapped underneath this. But I go to sleep with a smile on my face because I've got this inner spiritual knowledge that I am where I am meant to be. And there's so many people on this planet at this moment who are totally lost. What they'll do is they'll listen to the words of other people, they'll listen to the religious leaders. Take for example all those young guys of ISIS. I feel sorry for them. A few years ago when you had the attack on the hotel in Delhi and they were running rampant for a couple of days, young guys, young Muslim guys, Pakistani Muslim guys running rampant with their AK-45s, whatever, and they're on the mobile phones to the old men in Pakistan. They don't go to paradise, they send young guys to paradise. But the old men in Pakistan were on the mobile phones to them going, keep killing people, search the rooms, kill people, just keep killing. And these young guys, were they where they were meant to be in life? Is that where God, Allah, wanted them to be, the universal creator? No, they were there because they were young, they were ill-educated, and they were led by old men. Old men who love fighting wars, evil old men. And it's not just in the Muslim world, it's everywhere. I watched the Pope yesterday, I watched the Pope on TV the other day, flying his plane to Lesbos, Vatican one, and then fly out again with 12 Muslim families, what the Vatican is going to look after. And I thought, there's another evil old man. The new Pope, Argentina, when the junta, backed by America, America's evil old men, backed the junta to take over in Argentina, military takeover. They went round wiping out the left, just as they did in Chile. Not as bad as Chile in the 60s, but they went round wiping out the lefties, the people who had education and were able to vocalise their thoughts. And one of the things he did, this is like unique to Argentina, maybe not unique, but they stole children. For some reason, the military junta was stealing children, and I think it was to hide the fact that they were killing so many people. Because rather than set up an orphanage and fill it full of children, then somebody goes, where have all these children come from? They were hiding the babies of dead people, the people that they were killing, and giving them to military families. And they were called, I think there was a nickname, the Lost Ones or something. The Forgotten Ones, the Lost Ones. And what happened was, you had these elderly women in Argentina, suddenly the children have died. They've gone, they've disappeared. You know, they've been like taken out in a helicopter, out to sea, boom, the body's thrown out to sea. But the grandchildren disappeared as well. Where's the babies? Surely the junta's not killed the babies. And it slowly came out that the junta was giving them to military families, babies. Some mother who maybe didn't want a baby, but oh, there's a baby for you. No need to get pregnant. Lovely little baby. Healthy baby. Or maybe they were given promotion or some money to take the baby. But all over Argentina, a military family were taking babies that they knew the parents had been murdered by their military the military people who they work for. So you've got like a colonel or a captain or a major who takes a baby knowing that the generals have got their parents killed. How can you live with that sin on your back? You know, I call it sin, but we'll call it a weight, a burden. You've got that burden that the baby you're fetching up, you know that you're part of the murderous machine that's murdered that baby. Anyway, once the junta had gone, and these grandmothers still kept protesting because they wanted to know where their grandchildren were. They know the children are dead. They know the children have been murdered by the junta. But where have the grandchildren gone? Where have the babies gone? So it slowly came out that the army have got them, the air force have got them, the navy have got them. So they wanted them back because they've been stolen. So one of the people they approached the Catholic Church, and one of the people he approached was this Pope, because he was a cardinal in Argentina. And some of the grandmothers contacted him and said, you know, Your Holiness, can you help us? We want our grandchildren back. And do you know what this Pope did? He wrote a letter back to a grandmother and he said, let sleeping dogs lie. That's basically what he said. Let's forget it, he said. Let's pull a blanket over this dark period in our country's history. Let sleeping dogs lie. Forget you had a grandchild. That was this fucking Pope. So it's not just Muslims, is it? Young people being led by evil old men all over this planet. Greedy old men, greedy for power, greedy for money. So what chance have young people got? Here where I am now, I sleep outside like I say, and I see some of the youngsters, and they're there drinking vodka, smoking the weed. I mean, I'm not smoking, not drinking, I don't smoke, never smoked. I only drink when it suits me, which is like when I'm single. And when I've got a job and I've got the money. So I'm lucky there, I don't have this craving for alcohol. But these youngsters now, they've got all these cravings, Coca-Cola, you know, they've got all this sugar, they've got the weed is available, you know, and it's like, they're lost. It's not just education now where they're being lost, it's spiritually. I was talking to a guy last night whose marriage is falling apart, and basically she was a terrible partner, terrible mother, but she's got the kids, she's absolutely awful. But he said to me, but I can understand why she's like she is. He said, I never followed the golden rule. Look at the mother. Because the mother was the chaotic's not fucking hell, it's not a good word for what her mother was. And what we're now is we're getting this generational bad parenting. And in the lower classes, you know, the working poor, the unemployed poor, the working poor. But this is all by design, because you need ill-educated kids to do all this shit when this shit comes up, to fight the wars. Like I said, in Delhi, they sent these young 15, 16-year-old Pakistani guys, Muslim guys, into Delhi on a suicide mission to just kill innocent people. And there was an Australian woman, I did a radio show on this, and I talked about it in length. And there was an Australian woman whose husband was murdered by him. And there was a Turkish couple who survived and who actually talked to these young guys because they were Muslims, they let them live, they were able to quote the Quran. And what this Turkish woman and this Australian woman both said was, even though this Australian woman's husband had been murdered by him, she said, I felt so sorry for him. Young men doing terrible things, she said. And even though they killed my husband, she said, I felt sorry for him because someone else has got them to do that and sent them to do all these evil things. And she said, they're as much a victim as my husband and me. And this Turkish woman said basically the same thing. Evil old men all over this planet. In the Middle East now you've got like Syria, and you've got the leader of Syria there. His family have inherited power from his father, and his father had to murder a lot of people to get that power. And that's the thing about these old men. They don't care how many people they'll kill. George Bush. When the Vietnam War was on, George Bush was in the CIA. He was like one of the top dogs in the CIA. And he was actually in Peking. And there was a big embassy party where all the embassies like got together. And during this party, there was a big commotion, and the Chinese were running about, and they were like, yeah, basically celebrating the Chinese, because this was Peking and it was in an embassy, and other communist like regimes like, and this stir went through the community at this party. And then all of a sudden the news came through that the Vietnam War was over. It basically meant America was beaten. It'd been humiliated. And George Bush made a comment about how this should never have happened, and if he'd have had his way, it'd have all been different. And that old man, George Bush Senior, he stored that resentment, and he took that resentment into the future. And that was one of the reasons why he was so vicious with Iraq, the first Iraq war. I watched some videos and I've read some reports about the ambassador, the American ambassador to Iraq at the time before the first war. And Saddam Hussein was actually lured into Kuwait. The Americans basically said to him, yeah, if you go into Kuwait, don't worry about us. You know, we're not going to back you, but don't worry, we won't do anything about it. And they suckered him into it. And then they invaded, like they went and taught Saddam Hussein a lesson, but he lost his bottle, George Bush, because he wouldn't go all the way to Baghdad. He actually lost his nerve. Because the idea was to humiliate Iraq, lure him into Kuwait, then be the big saviour of the Arab oil producing countries, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. Then they buy more arms off. When they beat Iraq, they'll buy more arms off America. They'll allow more American influence into the Middle East. But then America would have like the rod over Iraq. But George Bush lost his nerve. So it had to be done the second time. So all this false pretense of weapons of mass destruction was created. And he sent his son in to do the work that he never finished, which was destroy Iraq, steal the oil, and again have this power over the Middle East. But power has a funny way of not working. There's a poem by Robbie Burns. The plans of men and mice often go awry, which means whether you're a man or whether you're a mouse, you have this plan. A mouse has a plan to get the cheese on the trap, but the trap has a tendency to kill it, which it will do. But that mouse had a plan, he was going to get that cheese. Whereas a man, a politician, he'll have this plan It's like, get this power, do this war, and it doesn't happen. And I was told by God, I was in a meditation circle, a very good meditation circle that I was guiding to. And we used to have a little chat beforehand, and we're talking about some of the things that are going on in the world, like some of the wars and stuff. So I asked, in this meditation circle, I asked the question, as we went into our meditation, I asked the question of God. I said, God, why didn't you make us all this? No, hang on. I asked God, why do you allow these wars to happen? All these wars. Because this is one of the bugbears with a lot of people. God allows war. No, God has given people on this planet, human beings, free will to commit these wars, commit these atrocities. The gift of free will is the greatest gift you can give, otherwise we're just ants, which I'll talk about another day. Anyway, so I asked God, why do you allow these wars? God came straight back to me and said, all these little, God said, there are people who have a plan and want to fight the big war, but they can't win the little wars. What that means is, you've got all these little wars where they go in with a plan, and it doesn't work. It didn't work in Iraq, as we could see. Vietnam was the biggest example. There's lots of little wars where America goes in, and it's just like, I remember them going into Somalia, like you've got that film Black Hawk Down, and Somalia, this brutal country where it needs help. So Clinton sent in Marines. The fleet arrives off the coast of Somalia. They jump in the landing craft, just like World War II on D-Day. The Marines come up to the beach in the landing craft, and then they all run off the landing craft onto the beach into this terrible war-zone country. And there's the world's press waiting for them on the beach, taking photographs as they come out of the landing craft. What a fucking joke. But it had to look good. They had to go through the process of like being this mighty nation landing on the beach. Well, if you see the film Black Hawk Down, that's only a bit of what happened, you know. It didn't show you the American soldiers being dragged around Mogadishu on a rope, naked, on the back of a jeep. Crowds hitting them with sticks, because that's one of the things that happened. But that was a privatised war, that. That's another thing they didn't show you in that film, Black Hawk Down. You seen them there all in the chow line eating the food. I remember reading in Newsweek years ago, an Australian family with a private company that supplied the food for the troops. Because war is now privatised. It's about profit. This Australian company had this Australian guy with his like 3 grown-up sons, and they were the company, the most ruthless company that were prepared to go into Mogadishu to Somalia to supply the food. Now what they had to do was, they had to fetch the food in by ship. The ship was at Mogadishu Harbour. How do you protect the food? Well, you get somebody more ruthless than the Somalians. So they only went and got some of Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge, Cambodian mindless killers to guard the ships. And these Khmer Rouge had no qualms about shooting dead 10, 11, 12, 14, 15-year-old kids who were trying to steal the food off the boat. That's privatised war. And it's still the same now. I always remember in Iraq when that female sold truck driver got captured. And he was a bit, I might do a chat on that one day about how false it was. Anyway, there's a big like thing in America, like, you know, oh, we've got to get her back. She's white, she's from Virginia, you know, we've got to get her back. Female truck driver, she's one of ours. And the American Pentagon went into this overdrive about, oh, we're going to get her back, don't you worry. The hospital where she was being treated for a gunshot wound in Iraq was phoning up the American army saying, can you come and get her? She's here. And the Pentagon never told the press that. But the doctors were phoning up and saying, listen, there's no problem, you can just come and get her. But they put on a big scene of sending in Delta to go get her. Anyhow, when that happened, one of the things that disturbed me was there was another truck driver who wasn't taken to the hospital, and she was shot in the foot, and she was black, and she was from Mississippi, and she was a single mother. Because we're in a new world now of war. So you had a black single mum from Mississippi who was also driving a truck. What's she doing there? What's going on? Well, it's because she's poor and she's uneducated. She's exactly the same as those Pakistani Muslim guys that went into that hotel in Delhi murdering people. She's got no option but to go to war to feed her children. She lives in a world of poverty. She's educationally poverty. What choice has she got? What options has she got in life? Those young Muslim kids, they've got no options in life. Very few. And it's kept that way. The Muslim religion keeps it that way. Just like the poverty in South America, the Vatican organises a lot of that. It suits the Vatican, all this poverty. It suits the Muslim world, the rich Muslims, the wealthy Muslims, the people with plans for war. It suits them to keep all these kids ignorant and poor. There's more money to be made in profit in war than there is in peace. There's more power to be gained in war than in peace. Keep people lean, hungry. Keep them mean and hungry. That's the way to keep people ready for war. So anyway, going back to this meditation circle, I said to God, you know, why do you allow all these wars? And God said, there are people who want to fight the big war, but they can't win these little wars. And there truly are people who want to fight the big nuclear war. American evangelical generals who actually believe in the rapture and empowering the Pentagon. The last few years there's been a big push against generals who have power who are not of the rapture way of thinking. They've been pushed out of the Pentagon. And there's more and more generals in America who are actually Bible bashers. This is the word of God. This is what will happen. This is how the world was created. And they're dying to fight that nuclear war. That's why there's all this tension with Russia. But Putin's too clever. I've done lots of videos about Putin a few years ago, when all the trouble in the Ukraine started and wherever in Georgia. And I just said Putin's too clever for Obama. He's not a good man, he's not a nice man. But he's looking after the interests of Russia. And he's too clever. He's too clever for John McCain, that little bastard. What a horrible old man. There's an old man who should never be given power. So I had this meditation circle. So the following week I had a little think about it. And I thought, alright, all these wars, you know, do I fight a big war? Well, there must be a solution, I thought. So the next meditation circle, the next week, I had a little chat beforehand. Goes into my meditation and I asked God, God, why didn't you make us all the same so that there wouldn't be these wars? And the answer came straight back to me from God. People are like flowers. The beauty is in the difference, but they just can't see that. There's me trying to outwit God, and there's God giving me the perfect answer. That's why we have all this difference in humanity. We're like flowers. God brought about humanity. Why would God want a garden full of the same flower? Imagine it, a garden with just one flower. There'd be no beauty in it. Lots of different flowers. I have my favourite flowers. Other people have their favourite flowers. I have certain colours that I like. Whenever I've had the chance to do gardens in the past, I've liked to do it my way, and I have my way of doing things. I've got my own version of beauty in a garden. We all have our own versions, but I don't force my version on anybody else. But the fucking old men of the religions are. You fucking power mad Muslims, you power mad Vatican bastards, you power mad fucking Jewish Zionists. They're all fucking at it all over this planet. Ill-educated. They're not giving decent education. The education levels are dropping. All these kids smoking drugs round here, drinking vodka in the park. Young kids, I'm talking 14, 13, 14, 15. Smoking draw, drinking vodka and beer and... Nobody's giving them ambition, nobody's giving them an insight, a clear insight, a spiritual insight into life. Look at the beauty of that again. Look at the beauty of the sea. It's not just flowers, it's everywhere. What's the beauty of sitting around? I watched the programme the other night. I'll be honest, John McCain won't like this, Senator John McCain, but I watch RT now and then to get another version of the news, and you get documentaries there, and there's a documentary, I'm going to search it out and see if I can find it, Afghan Overdose. And basically, you've got Muslims producing heroin, and Afghanistan is now full of Muslims addicted to heroin, and it's shown you this underpass in Kabul, and it's now a tourist site. A lot of wealthy Afghans come and they stand up on the top of the overpass and they're looking, and it's just a mass of heroin addicts injecting $6 a shot. And they're all there. And these news guys went down and they described the smell under this. Because they're not coming up for a shit. They're not coming upstairs for a piss. They're heroin addicts. They're just dropping their pants and having a shit there. They're just like having a piss there. They're all there in squalor. And the smell. So much misery. But the old man loves misery because he can put it on the blame on the other person and say our system is right, that proves it. In my book, there's always consequences. Remember what I said about that poem? Plans of men and mice often go awry. They never work out. In my book I said all these new roads, what they're building in Afghanistan, they were for the pipeline. That Afghanistan war was for one reason. It was so they could do a pipeline from Uzbekistan, across Afghanistan, across the northern part of Pakistan to the sea, where they were going to have a gas terminal, an oil terminal. That's the only reason, that was the main reason they invaded Afghanistan. And they were building all these new roads ready for this oil terminal. The pipelines never happened because they didn't win the fucking war. The old men who planned this pipeline, planned this war, it didn't work out. What I said in my book was all these new roads will all be used by the warlords who are producing the opium, the poppies, the heroin, and I said heroin production is just going to go boom through the ceiling. It's going to go, just get bigger and bigger, and that heroin is going to come back to America. And that vision of that underpass in Kabul, that's happening all around American cities now. Heroin production, heroin use is going up because it's getting cheaper, because the American government, through the war, through these new roads, through other things, have made it easier for them to get heroin from Afghanistan to America, through Mexico. A lot of it's coming through Mexico. Them borders, through them tunnels. And the young people are paying the price for the old men's plans. Crazy plans for power, crazy plans for war. Spirituality. Religion's not going to get us out of this. It's going to be like an inner spirituality. And it's going to be another financial crash. And this next financial crash is going to be so bad, it's going to devastate economies. But it's going to be an opportunity for the young people to wake up. I think this next coming crash, I said this in my book, will be an opportunity for kids to see what the world is about. Things are going to happen where your young will have their eyes opened and they will be illuminated by the light. We've got to put our faith in the young people. I'm 60 years old now. Yesterday did a film, I was talking about pensions, and I was really, inside of that, I nearly burst into tears. Because of the way the young people are being betrayed. It's so sad. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. Because things are going to get so bad that actually young people may start to wake up. And hopefully it won't be just here in this country, America, Europe. Hopefully this spiritual enlightenment will happen to young Muslims as well.